No. Afternoon, everybody. So I'm Marge Pequot, from Blackwood, New York, but actually right now, that's where and this is Kim LaCown. I'm a psychologist. Kim is a licensed mental health counselor. And Ty invited us to come by and chat up a little bit about connecting behavioral health services with the various communities. And so I'm going to be a spoiler and just tell you that the bottom line here is it's like a big infomercial about what's available on behavioral health. So you can take these resources back to your communities. Please, we're a little tiny group, so you can shout out your questions, or I lost my dance partner again, so if anybody else wants to. What? Oh, okay, got it.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate the invitation, as Marge said. I'm actually going to start off this training by doing an activity. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you notice, there are 4 pieces of flip chart paper on the wall, and I have a variety of markers up front here. And what I'm going to ask you to do is just break yourself into 3 or 4 groups and complete this task. I want to do an activity thinking about healthy youth in healthy communities. So what I'd like you to do is go over to a piece of flip chart and draw a healthy youth in your community. Okay, we're going to depict community supports that are available to that youth and how a healthy youth can also support them. So as you're putting together your drawing, consider the whole youth, right? Keeping in mind the mind, body, spirit, emotion. Feel free to use visual representations from your community and include language, culture, traditions, and spirituality as you see fit. We'll take just a few minutes to do that if you don't mind. And then we're going to revisit this throughout our training together. Yes?
Now, when you say draw a healthy youth, you want us to draw a physical person, or do you want us to describe a physical person?
It is your choice. If there are any artists in the room, that's great. I am all about a good stick figure. I am all about symbols that may represent a healthy youth. The canvas is yours. The blank canvas is there for you, and however you see them.
We have lots of Sharpies up here.
Yes.
So if you want to change the name of the Gulf of something, come on.
Yeah, come on up. Thank you. We'll just take just about 5 minutes to do this. No stress, no pressure. Not going to be judged in any way. All different colors.
Let your inner child.
Yes.
Stop it. You work in teams. Extra points if you put Yankee.
That's not right, Marge. And we have plenty of flip chart paper. Are you walking around looking for the best artist? You got that? See, he signed off.
Well, yeah.
Come on down. Okay, we just started. Oh, I've had it before.
Yeah.
That was great.
Oh, he just said.
Okay, awesome.
Not good. Yeah.
We're doing this activity here. Start. And spirit collision. Feel free to jump in. One of the projects for us. Thank you. You are. Thank you. Yeah, maybe Marge, maybe if you wanted to hold them up. Yeah. This is the line right here. Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay. It's Two more minutes. You talk about it. I love it. Yeah. You guys do it. I'm still writing pictures.
Oh, we're.
Put it in here so that it's not lying.
Oh,
Okay. Don't go away. Okay, Kim.
I think we're gonna have like a story. So depict how a healthy community supports the youth and how a healthy youth supports the
I love it. Yeah. One more minute, perhaps. One more minute. But if you're respectful of everybody's time, I would love to see it. It's fantastic.
Got it? I'm working.
All right, yeah, everybody. What we're going to do, we have some folks joining us virtually for this training. And what we're going to do, so folks that are joining us virtually can see these fabulous pieces of artwork that you've all done. We're just going to bring them up front, so it's in the camera, so people can see them. But we'd like to hear a little bit about your pieces and the thought behind it. Do you mind if we start with this one right here?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Tell us about your piece. What were your thoughts behind it?
I think you go first.
Okay. So in our community, because we're native, a healthy child to us depicts a child that's in their community, who's happy and is engaging in their traditional culture. And so this depiction is a child who's grass dancing. And there's a drum on the side, and this child is just having a good time. There's a Me Too in the background, kind of like a Greenhorn Festival situation. I don't know. Go ahead, Irish.
Well, and I think a healthy youth would have to start with his or her feeling accepted by the community for who and what they are, for their culture, for their traditions, for who they are emotionally, that they can make mistakes and it's okay. Life continues on, but that kind of support, I think, can help to breed happiness.
Thank you so much. All right, our next piece. Oh, no worries. Just place it right there. No worries. So basically, we have our youth here, and him having his nuclear family, his mom, his dad, his siblings, but also his extended family, the grandparents and the aunts, because a nuclear family, not just mom and dad. Right. And also we have his connected with the earth, right? We have the tree, and we have connected with the water. And we have a fire here and smoke that goes, prayers that connects his pineal gland, his third eye. Access to a great school system, a great medical for emergencies only, and also access to foods with no toxins. And we have here the extracurricular activities, play, we have a slide, we have dance, art, sports, and mindfulness. And for us, this would be healthy Indigenous youth in our world. Thank you. Next. Go.
Hi guys. So for me, for a healthy child, that's running in two sides. I'm going to say just being Indigenous, but also having other cultures, being mixed with Puerto Rican, being mixed with African American, which is Caribbean. So for a healthy child, for me, that would be the representation of my business, unique diversity, innovation, and also where I turn up, because it's what we have to do to make the youth whole. So the first thing would be having positive role models, because some families don't come from a mother and a father Some of us come from foster care. Some of us come from stolen or broken homes. So in that, that's how I look at that. So a positive role model. It could be a grandmother, it could be a guardian, it could be a sister, it could be a brother, it could be a tribal leader. Also, peer support groups, because with youth, they have to see other youth. They do a lot of mimicking. So one of the things we want to teach them is peer support groups that will help them express themselves. Now, a safe space to talk about stressors, because sometimes with our youth, we just want to hear what they're going through. Because as adults, we forget we're not back on their level. So stuff that can be minor to us could be huge for them, or stuff that they're going through in life. So we want to create a safe space. Freedom of expression with no judgment, like a no judgmental space. So anything that they're feeling, they're internalizing, if they're torn, identity crisis, just different things that they're going through. We want to make sure we create a safe space for them to express themselves. Open to spirituality. Now, in that, where I can say I come from two worlds with Western and being Native American. So in that, I practice as a practitioner. I pull from both to combine one that makes me who I am. So I don't forget where I come from as a family as a whole. So that's the thing I would say, open spirituality, because I was blessed to have both the Taino, both the Wampanoag, both the Caribbean. I had pulled all these things together, so I was blessed to do that. Career internship, learning what that youth wants to do, what they want to become, and align stuff up to that creativity. So you're always blessing. They might want to be a dancer, they might want to be a singer, a writer, but you're nurturing that all the way up so they can have success leading into that path. The other thing is financial resources and job training. Now, some youth might be working for helping their family to develop income. Because in lack of income coming from where we're coming from, like our grandparents, our great grandmother, they could teach us stuff, but we have to financially get there. How's the tools we're going to be able to feed ourselves, to support these bills? So in that, you never know what the youth is doing. They might be supporting their sisters, their brothers, their nephews, that family nuclear dynamic. So we want to make sure that we give them the resources to get there, to help them out so they can learn to be who they are. So that would be one of that. Love, just have that nurture, because sometimes that's not blood ties. Sometimes that's family times, or in like our culture, we can adopt other children because other children don't have families. Obviously, you guys know I don't have to break that down into that. Also, developing a goal plan for like an educational goal plan where that child wants to go. Making sure they have access to a school, to make sure that you're supporting them in everything that they do, education and health, and with their sports. So all together, giving them a community health worker, and that's where UDI comes up. Hello.
Oh, no, something else. So we go, guys.
We have a very simplified depiction of what we are hoping to convey, but it's not a gingerbread cookie. This is our depiction of a person. We wanted to sort of convey this as simply as possible to speak to the desire to sort of highlight the universality of the message that we want to convey. So what we have in terms of this core feature is really wanting to speak to the importance of being one with the spirit and our ancestors. And also depicted up top is Father Sun and Mother Earth in terms of the importance of, again, maintaining that strong relationship and respect for nature and all that it provides us. And then top right, what we wrote down was Aho, in terms of maintaining that connection to language and culture, and again, just bringing an emphasis to the message that we're wanting to convey.
And Danielle did a beautiful job at conveying everything that is represented here. The one key ingredient that is in there is something that we will not share, because it's meant to be shared only with the Creator. And the Creator will hold that between us and creation. So that's our true medicine, because there are entities out there that if they are given that key ingredient can destroy us. So we hold to that dear, and that is our relationship with Creator. And that's what makes a beautiful community.
Feeling the love. Go for it.
My name's Jada Lee. So I came in a little late, but when I first saw the prompt, I kind of just drew something abstract that just popped in my head. And I'm going to keep it simple. So, especially with the youth, when you're healthy in your mind, body, and your spirit, it trickles down to everybody and everything. So, even one simple conversation can just trickle right down to somebody that you meet in the supermarket, to your family, to your friends. And once you spread that out, you're all connected in one. You know what I mean? So if you're a nice person and you're healthy and you have a good support system, you pass that down and that goes down generations, just like how we all know, like how everybody knows their tribe and where they're from. Youth also just brings that to the way that they grew up, the love that they feel, the way that they're treated at home, the way that they can just teach their friends that. Not everybody has that in their home, but with the youth, kids don't care. It's how they're taught and how they're loved, and that's how they give love as well. That's it.
So, hello everyone. I'm Noemi. I'm representing Unique Diversities Innovation. My Boston colleague is right over there, team on the back. So, a lot of the things that I am going to say, it does stem from the same spot. So, we all come from the same tree, as I can see. So, for kids, I am very big on a foundation of a tree. As we all know, in our reservations in our land, the foundations to our space is the trees. That's the connection to the earth. That's the connection to us. And that is our support system for ourselves and how we keep each other together. So big thing is support. Family members, friends, and any mentors or any representatives that you may have. As we said, family members don't always have to be blood. It's all people that influence us and that bring us together and mold us into the person that we are. Educational systems, obviously, it's super important. And nowadays, my family will tell me every day there's something new to learn. Every day there's something to improve on. So it's very big to instill education on these kids, no matter how it looks, but just instill education. They need to understand. Community leaders, teachers, mentors, very important. Obviously goes hand in hand with the educational system. Spiritual beliefs are big. We need something to believe in. We need something to hold on to. We need something to cherish. So that is a very big thing to instill in the kids. Nowadays, it's very easy to be caught up in electronics and just the superficial and the now. But having that spiritual connection and that deep connection within yourself and the people around you keeps you grounded and keeps you in the right space. Elders, we all know we need to respect our elders. They have things, they have stories, they have ways and life experiences that we only can know based off of hearing from them and learning from them. So it's very big to respect them. Empowerment and growth. We have to empower ourselves and we have to grow within ourselves. For us to be able to do that to our children, we have to pass that down. Some things aren't just known. We have to teach them. So it's very big on doing so. Encouragement. We've got to encourage the kids. It's so easy to tell them what they're doing wrong, but we have to encourage them on where they're at now and how we can continue to improve them. Youth support, that goes hand in hand with some of the things I just stated, community centers, which is up here as well too. Border outline of the community. That's similar to what I stated down there. But safe spaces, I put that in the middle of the tree because it is so big to have a safe space to be able to come as a child, as an adult. I'm like, especially as children, I grew up in a household where you didn't usually have a voice, and now we need to understand that kids have a voice. I'm like my boss stated, it might be seem minuscule and it might seem really small to us, but it's so big in their tiny world. So we have to pay attention to them. We have to make them feel important in the places that they are. So community centers, YMCAs, different places like that, unique diversity, different places where they can come and they can stay together. Churches, I'm like, any type of religion that you do cherish and you do worship, I'm like, it's big to stay within your spiritual beliefs. Obviously, UDI, Oasis for all, safe space for all. Wherever you come, shape, color, size, we are here. We are a safe space for you. Feeling seen and heard, that's a big thing. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. So giving that to our kids, it's big, 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 big. No judgment zone and mental health. especially in our community, it's big for us to not listen to our mental health. Even as elders, sometimes we feel like it's bad to talk to the kids about mental health, but they have to understand, they have to feel educated in that space, because if they don't feel vulnerable with their own family and their own support system, how are they going to get that from somebody else? So
Thank you all so much. That was fantastic. That was fantastic. Appreciate you engaging in this exercise. I was in Maine recently. I spent some time with the Wabanakis. Anyone here from the Wabanaki tribes by chance? Any of the Wabanaki tribes? No. Spent some time in Maine doing this activity, and I'd just like to share with you a few pictures that they did. Let's go through these quickly. A lot of similarities. Yeah. Absolutely. There's the Great. And I'll speak to that experience a little bit later in our training, but right now I'm going to hand it over to March.
Alrighty, thanks. So, you guys have heard the term a public health model of mental health. And so, in a situation where I don't know, some of this is post-COVID, but there have been mental health issues and a crisis developing in our youth for years, right? The COVID certainly didn't help. But we're now in a situation where 1 in 5 of our kids, now I'm talking nationally, have a diagnosable mental health issue. We also have a situation in which about 40% of high school students, this is 2023 data, report feeling hopeless and sad for a 2-week period without a break. And this is the one that always gets my attention. About 20% of high school students report seriously thinking about dying by suicide, right? And so we're in a situation now where the idea that behavioral health people, mental health people, behavioral health, of course, is mental health and substance use disorder, where the people that have these diseases, and this is what we do, we are far outstripped by what needs to happen. So we shift to a model called the public health model, where we're all behavioral health professionals. We're all mental health providers. From whatever standpoint we can see the world and see these kids, what can we do to foster what's on these drawings? And a really important piece of the puzzle here, thank you for this, is the no judgment zone. There's such stigma when you have a behavioral health issue. Why? I mean, come on. Right? And so we all need to figure out what can we do to get more behavioral health education in the hands of anyone who interacts with our kids. Anyone. And that's kind of a huge piece of this puzzle. So a little bit later on, we're going to ask you to think about who in your community might need more behavioral health information, more savvy, more education, more references, more resources to help our kids. So we'll kind of be back to that. So on that note, I want to tell you a little bit about the organization we come from. This is Bradley Hospital. You might have heard. It's the oldest children's neuropsychiatric hospital in the country. We also think it probably is in the world, but there's this little place in Russia that I'm not sure we get information about. So we opened in 1931, so we'll be coming up on 100 years pretty soon. And we have all kinds of services to offer. And a lot of them, and that's really the drum we want to hit, an awful lot of them are remote and educational, right? So this is all on the tune of who in our communities would appreciate, need, and benefit from more information about behavioral health or mental health. Oops, where'd I go? So these are just some pictures. We're located in East Providence in Rhode Island. This is a drone shot. You can see the old architecture, looks kind of 1930-ish. And just to take a minute of the history, these folks that lived in Pomfret, Connecticut, and pretty wealthy kind of guys. This guy over here, George, was a mining engineer and the first CEO and chairman of the board of California. So we're talking about folks with a lot of dollars. They have a little girl. Her name is Emma. The actual name of the hospital is Emma Pendleton Bradley Hospital. Emma's in this picture. She's about 7 years old, and she contracts something. Looking back at it, we think it was a string of red powder. Right? Anyway, she develops encephalitis, and they don't think she's going to live through the acute phase of the illness, but she does. But as she's recovering, she's a pretty changed little girl, right? She has a whole collection of medical issues, a very significant seizure disorder, and some cognitive issues, but most especially a very significant behavioral dysregulation that has come with the illness. So the family decided that they would take their entire estate and set up the first children's nurse. So here's a little bit about the hospital. We have inpatient units. We do accept kids from all over the country. We have residential programs, partial hospitalization, in-home treatment, and outpatient. I'll tell you a little bit about, we have partial hospitalization. You might be familiar. That's essentially all of the same services you would receive inpatient, except you're doing it from home. All right, and tied particularly as if I will talk about that. So we'll have that on the slide next a little bit later. This is Beezy. He's on staff. We recently had a birthday party for him, and everybody got cookies in the shape of a so he's one of our therapy dogs. But we also have an emergency room, Bradley Reach, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about. We have schools, Center for Autism and Developmental Disability, yada, 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 yada. And when we get to education, I want to highlight the Bradley Learning Exchange. We have conferences that we do on very niche child behavioral health issues. Most of the time they're free or they cost a few dollars. We're going to ask folks if we can have you guys' email addresses so we can get that information out to you. We also want to highlight our mental health first aid. Anybody mental health first aid certified? Oh, the back seat. Woo! Jen's going to tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. And then I want to tell you about part of our program that's called BOL, Bradley Online Learning. And again, all free. You go to Bradley Online Learning, give you some information in the packet. And you can go and, at your own pace, learn about some very specific child behavioral health issues. These modules developed by our faculty, and people find them enlightening, interesting, and they're really not a heavy lift. You can do the whole thing in a few minutes. And if anybody needs continuing education credits, they can come with that too. Alrighty. Okay.
My turn, March.
Oh,
Thank
I have
you.
to stop? Oh, can I talk about the
Yes.
because we're short on time, so we're not going to have a lot of time. But here in the folder is our behavioral health catalog. Now, anything in this catalog we can teach remotely. And only thing in here that we don't teach remotely is connected with trauma. We don't do introduction to trauma. It's just too triggering enough to do that remotely. And we're not going to do it to be supportive. But everything else here we do remotely. If you are interested in bringing these services to anyone in your sphere, just give us a call.
Does anybody need a folder?
So the rest of it, I think it's pretty. Oh, here's Bradley Online Learning. There's a QR code. all freebies and keys. Yours. We've had people take those bottles from all 50 states and 67 international countries. So, people find it interesting. Oh, can I tell you a little bit about that? So, you never get this. Which is, partial hospitalization services, both on the road. Give us a call. We have licensed clinicians in multiple states. We have folks in Florida, West Virginia, all over New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and wherever else you're from. Give us a call, and we'll see what we can do to get your kids into our programs. Questions?
Thank you. All right. So one division of the Bradley Learning Exchange, the department that I work in, is called the Behavioral Health Workforce and Professional Development. And in your package, you also have we provide trainings for a variety of different professionals. We provide trainings in many school districts, health and human services, hospitals, any workforce development, any organization or business. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about mental health first aid and our suicide prevention trainings in just a moment, which is really two of our main areas. But topics that you're going to find in this catalog include, but certainly not limited to, trauma-informed care that Marge will speak to in just a little bit. But a lot of our trainings are about understanding behavior and how trauma can affect behavior. Some of our more popular trainings are around de-escalation in a variety of settings, whether it's a hospital setting or a school setting. Also self-care, because I think for those of us that work in the helping profession, we're worst at taking care of ourselves because we're so busy taking care of everybody else. So some of our more popular trainings are around self-care for the caregivers. We partner with the Autism Project, which is located in Johnston, Rhode Island, and they do a lot of trainings on autism spectrum disorder. So you can take a look in the catalog at the different types of trainings that we offer.
Do you do work on the road?
Groden, not directly. I've done some mental health first aid with Groden, which I'm about to talk about. But yes, they're another wonderful organization in Rhode Island.
And they're top shelf.
Yeah, they really are. Thank you. Yeah. So mental health first aid is the program that I supervise at Bradley Hospital. I'd love to see that a couple of you are mental health first aid trained already. How many of you have taken a CPR class or a first aid class before? Look at all the hands that go up. Right? You know, those courses are designed to help us to recognize somebody experiencing a physical health emergency. It teaches us what to do in the moment, right? Sometimes that support we provide in the moment is enough. Sometimes we need to call 911. Those courses, they don't teach us to be doctors and nurses, but they teach us to recognize somebody who's experiencing a physical health challenge. Well, that's what mental health first aid does, but for someone experiencing a mental health challenge. And by mental health challenge, what I mean is something that, as mental health first aid would say, affects someone's ability to live, love, learn, and laugh. Live, love, learn, and laugh, the 4 L's. Mental health first aid itself was actually developed in Australia in 2001, came to the United States in 2008, and it was brought to the United States by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. And it is now in 25 countries around the world. It's an evidence-based early intervention public education program that's specifically designed for people without that behavioral health or mental health background. It's really meant for anyone who wants to learn to help someone experiencing a mental health challenge or experiencing a crisis. Throughout the course, folks learn a 5-step action plan where you learn to recognize those signs and symptoms and giving tools to help. Completion of the course does result in a 3-year national certification, just like if you took an American Heart Association first aid class or a CPR class. This is a national certification. I'm going to share a video with you that speaks to this just a little bit, and then I'll ask for your thoughts about the video in just a moment.
Yes, so it's going to be open for this for a certain amount of time, but that depends on jurisdiction.
I'm Danny. I've lived with depression and anxiety for about 12 years. And today I'm going to be opening up about those mental health challenges with some complete strangers in the hopes that we can start normalizing conversations about mental health. Hi, I'm Danny. Nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you too.
Cecilio, nice to meet you.
How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm doing really good. Yeah.
Doing good. Yourself?
I'm actually not doing so well.
Okay, that's honest.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So,
Okay. What's going on?
can you tell me a little bit more about it? Do you feel comfortable talking about it, or?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So I've been living with depression for a long time, and this week has been particularly hard. So a lot of people simply just don't know what to say, what to do when somebody opens up to them about a mental health or addiction challenge. And that's really where mental health first aid can be valuable. It teaches people a concrete action plan for starting a conversation and getting somebody the support that they need, whether that's treatment or just a non-judgmental listening ear. So was it a little unexpected when I responded that I wasn't doing well, us being complete strangers until this moment?
I'll be honest, it caught me off guard. You just expect the automatic response of, how are you doing? I'm good.
When you first meet someone, here there's like a huge distance.
I always feel like, how can I help someone else? So, and I know it's hard because you just want to be like, oh, sorry, okay, let me write.
And I don't think people.
That wasn't supposed to happen. This doesn't come back on at all. Just in interest of time, why don't we stop it there? I'm sorry for, if anybody's interested in seeing the conclusion of that video, happy to send you the link. But we saw a good piece of.
Can you give us kind of like just the overview of what?
Yeah, so they're talking about it was kind of the, most of us we see when we see somebody, we're like, hey, how's it going, right? And just walking. And are we ever true, right, about what's really happening? And I think sometimes the video goes on saying that I think people want to help, but they don't know how. I think most of us know that, if we were to see somebody having a heart attack, just by the hands that went up in the room, we see somebody having a heart attack, we know to start CPR. We know, or at very least we'll know to call 911, right? But when somebody's experiencing a mental health challenge, we might not feel comfortable or might not know. And that's where mental health first aid really comes in. And there are 3 core modules of mental health first aid. The first one is mental health first aid for adults, which is an 8-hour course designed for adults who interact primarily with other adults. Youth mental health first aid is a 6.5-hour course that is designed for adults who primarily work with young people. And both of those courses can be offered either in person or remotely. And then we have teen mental health first aid, which I'll talk about the structure of that course in just a moment. But teen mental health first aid is meant for teens to recognize a friend who may be struggling and how to provide that support. Mental health first aid does allow us to offer this course either in person or virtually. But at Bradley Hospital, we've made the decision to only offer that course in person, just due to the content. So a little bit about teen mental health first aid. It is meant for high school students in grades 9 through 12. It is offered over 6 45-minute sessions or 3 90-minute sessions. And it can be offered in any school, any youth serving organization. There are a couple of requirements to offer teen mental health first aid within a school or in a youth serving organization. And one requirement is that 5% of staff within that school or organization must first be trained in youth mental health first aid. Teens learn a 5-step action plan, and a big piece of their action plan is how to connect to a trusted adult. And we want trusted adults available that these teens can go to. There are a variety of community-specific modules that Mental Health First Aid has developed as well. And we teach all of these modules here that you see on the screen within our Mental Health First Aid team. So what the adult mental health first aid, so for higher education, fire, EMS, public safety, veterans, service members and their families, older adult, that takes the traditional or the core adult mental health first aid module and incorporates slides that address the unique needs of these communities. The only youth mental health first aid community specific program that has been developed is for tribal communities and Indigenous peoples. Did you have a question? Yeah.
Yes. Question. My question is, it's almost like my brains are wrong. No, it's not really a lot. It's about cultural sensitivity.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I get traumatized right away when I have 2 white presenters talking about mental health for tribal communities, right?
That's where I'm going with it.
There's no disrespect at all.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and not say something about it.
Yeah.
And so, my curiosity was, one, clinical trials, how they conducted, who conducted them, or they conducted based off of public health at Brown, Harvard, some kind of, I don't think that's some kind of agenda where they want to put young people on medication for mental health. And that's a real thing. I already did my research. So that's my question. And this was done in consultative status with some Indigenous groups.
Absolutely, yes. The National Council for Mental Wellbeing. Yes, they did. If I would give you, and I'm going to put out my business cards, feel free to reach out to me, and I will email you all the research that was done to develop this community-specific curriculum. And yes, it was done with in consultation with a variety of tribes throughout the country.
So, just really, one of the things that I did recently was I just published my last book. And it's called Unspecified Spiritual Adjustment Disorder. And basically, I looked at all the ICD-10 codes and did research. I got an IRB approved by FDA and HHS to do the research. And what we found in that was that ICD-10 codes for mental health and the DSM-5 were inappropriate. And they were non-closely sensitive to people of color and or Indigenous people communities. So what I did was I developed new ICD-10 codes and I sent them to Blue Cross. And so I think there's a major issue that we're missing here around how we have to utilize the criteria to support mental health, because the conversation around suicide and native is huge.
Yeah.
When nobody knows what it's like for an Indigenous person to walk out of their apartment that they have to rent from a white landlord on their own tribal territory, knowing that they have a deed to that, and then having to try to live a normal life. And so the first ever mental health problem that took place here was actually the communication between the Europeans and the Indians. And nobody has ever said anything. No one has ever addressed that. It's not in the DSM-5, it's not in the ICD-10, and that's a problem. And so mental health has been fabulous since the time of inception of when mental health even was an issue here on this part of our shores. And so, with all due respect, these models are cool that people are really trying, However, I think the consultative status of this thing needs to be more inclusive with the folks that it actually.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
DSM 5 is, it takes 100,000 years to provide. It's, so you're absolutely.
But it's revised. Was affected by this first, exactly everything that we said. And with this hospital.
Yeah.
So, and I had the choices, right? Still affected me, like, to this very day on this topic. You're choosing not to, I think, want medicine. Choices that were made to me that it was my only option. And it wasn't my only option. And there was no support. And the support was me doing my own research. And me being educated enough. And me having a voice myself as a minority single parent. And for me having my own voice as a woman in a world with only male doctors. And there were no women doctors. And there were no minority doctors in your hospital. Okay? So this model for me is no good. In a world where we're supposed to be the most powerful country and have the most, what do we call, Western modernization in medicine. I know, and but this hospital, and it didn't work. It didn't work. And the only thing that worked for mine was because I was educated and strong enough to research myself and make my own choices. And still, child, still, I went to the inpatient, outpatient. And I did what I needed to do. What I needed to do as a parent, and a mother, and my minority, okay? And not even with the knowledge of the options and the choices that they have to be revised. I went to the school department and made sure I fought for mine to make sure that my program, so that mine, whatever I needed to do for work, to be able to work and still educate my child and still make sure that there is wellness for more than one child and an adult, myself. I took care of my own mental health because the system was not there.
And the stigma comes such a huge, it's
Was not there.
system.
So you sent the statement. I feel just like Dr. Fisher just said. It's confusing. It's confusing what you're saying. And to sit in a forum with young women, future mothers, future parents, elders, it's too much. It's confusing. And they have to be better. And if you sit in front of us and none of you look like us, it's too much. It has to stop. So the education is that before we go and stand in front of us people, somebody has to be up there with you. You cannot make a statement. And as a woman, and a woman of color, maybe I'm out of line, and maybe I'm I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, thank you for sharing. Absolutely.
Sorry.
Nothing to be sorry for. No, I appreciate you sharing.
We are in a system that is,
Somebody has to say it has to stop. I haven't stopped. I fight every single day for my family. I am in the healthcare system. I can put 50 of these folders. I have the education and the knowledge to create this folder. I've done this folder. I have the certificates in this folder. I can stand up there and tell you everything that you're telling us, but you don't look like me. And I don't know if there's somebody up there that needs to be there with you. I don't know where they are, who she is, or who he is. But the education is in itself right there. What's happening has to stop.
Oh, I agree with you 100%, and that's part of actually why I'm standing here, is because I make connections to tribal communities. That's some work that we've been doing in Maine. That's how we got the ball rolling to help address, some of what you're talking about. I agree with you. We need somebody else up here that can speak to this curriculum too. And I just want to say, when we go and we work in tribal communities, it is not just me showing up telling folks what to do. When I was in Maine working with the various Wabanaki tribes, I co-taught somebody that was part of that tribe that was also doing mental health first aid instructor. So we could incorporate, or she could incorporate, the traditions, the practices, the ceremonies that I'm not privileged to, but was happy to learn about and happy to use her. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Just put that hand up.
That's very exciting. I want to share. I know accomplishes a lot of us because it's true. There's a lot of things in each and every one of us. And we all have a story to tell. And it's a very strong story. And many of us would like to keep that reserved because it's too hard to say. And as he mentioned, and he says with all due respect, it is hard to sit there and watch two white women and the name Brown University that started this enslaving black individuals and has never ever apologized and tested us and taken our human remains and taken things and used that as. So we don't see that trust up there. And you know what, back yesterday, many of our people did not speak up because in fear of a retaliation or something happened to them, or their kids being thrown in jail, or something happened. But today you are not silencing us. And we are speaking up. We are speaking up. It amazes me how professional white people who are given this paperwork from their professional people can come down and lay down a law with their paperwork that affects my people. Like this is like the laws that are created. We're all supposed to be equal, but so are they slipping that the black man is treated with other men. And that's too big, right? All of this, how is it that you expect us to hear or see you anymore? When we know the history and we feel the today, and we're not going to have tomorrow. So, with that being said, and going to the same hospital I stopped going, I had in vitro fertilization. They stole my embryos. I got 3 embryos that they stole. And every day I looked more proud and wondered if that's my child. And I had to do that for the rest of my life. And you know what they said? Whoops. You know? And then 2 other white women go through the same thing that I go through, and you can Google it. It's online, there's a story about it. They go through it, they get medium attention, they're looking for the embryos, they go into court. Me, I missed deadlines, I didn't do this, nobody wanted to hear my story, but they got my embryos. Where are they? They were black. Meaning, if you put them in you have to believe because they're not sure. But they're gone. So I don't trust Brown University, I don't trust the name, it was very triggering just seeing it. Then to have no disrespect that CP, but this is no attack on you whatsoever. Unacceptable, come up here, who have dentists, doctors, everything that's white, able white, slip off the table white, school teachers white, everything white, and come up here and tell us what's best. And that we train people to go and tribal communities. We train them with your thought process. We don't want your thought process. We use our own.
It's bad up to
If I wrote, I would build for my community. They're like, whatever. I feel good. You know, I'm going to do something. They know that I'm going to do something. They don't look at it as something bad, but I did that on the main street. They're going to, you need to go that.
Yeah.
I'm not down with that.
Thank you. You probably have no idea how much we appreciate this conversation. And you started us saying something really interesting. You said most people they're triggered and don't want to have this conversation because it hurts too much. But we appreciate the conversation. Thank you for that. We're doing the best we can with. Great.
So I've been working with the Department of Public Health in Massachusetts, and one of the things that we have been trying to work with the state of Massachusetts is none of this pertains to Indigenous families. So these trainings, these workshops, the pamphlets, none of this is for Indigenous families. So what needs to be done is it needs to be rewritten with an Indigenous person heading. So it doesn't make sense for you to sit here and say, well, I did it with a co-person of a Wabanaki. No. All of this doesn't make sense to us because this is not our world, this is not our culture, it doesn't pertain to us. You need Indigenous people to come in there, and it doesn't mean that they have to have a doctorate degree because we know Indigenous people have not had the access to be considered the experts. But we are the expert of our people. And so this does not pertain to us in any way, shape, or form. So in an institution like the Bradley Hospital has years, 1930, of abuse of Indigenous, Black, and Brown. So no, we do not trust the Bradley Hospital. No, we will not trust. No disrespect for you guys. Sure. You guys that came here were guns blazing, and I apologize for that. But this does not work. You gotta go back to the Department of Public, wherever we're at, Rhode Island. Find the Indigenous experts and have them be right. The DSM-4 revised, whatever they're on right now, none of that pertains to our culture. None of that pertains to us as people. None of it. And just because you decide, non-Indigenous people, to write a book or to do a study in the moment, 2025, does not mean that now it is stamped and approved. No, that's not how that works.
Sure, thank you.
So, I would say, appreciate, I am someone who's a little bit up, and I want everybody to hear me when I'm saying. I thank all of you for sharing your testimonies, your stories, and different things around us, but honestly, I understand and I empathize, but I'm a little disappointed. Why I'm disappointed is I'm not saying Bradley Hospital is perfect. I'm not saying all of their rules are good. But we all know these are the type of people we need to get in certain wards into almost stands. We understand them representing us right now is not us, but we as a community need to find how we can be in those spaces where we can be that person representing them. They're coming into this space trying to make it work for us, but things like you guys said, we don't know. We all know our communities are very safe. They're very private, and honestly, if you don't have a foot in the door, you are not going to know how we do that. I'm coming from a person who is Taino Indian as well too, and I am Black. I work in my community. I'm a member of the Coalition of Black Women in Rhode Island, and I am a member of Unique Diversities, which is a holistic medicine aviation community building and company. Sorry, I'm getting a little worked up. But we have to understand, not everything in this presentation we know we're not going to learn. But we need to take whatever information that we know that we're going to do to empower our community from this presentation. That is the big thing. We understand they don't know all of our they don't know our struggles, they don't know our stories. But if they don't put it on that PowerPoint, when are we going to see it? When are we going to see it? Realistically. And I'm not saying that it's going to be them forever, but how do we get our people in their shoes to be able to represent us in these rooms, right? Because right now they could have never came at all. They could never put any type of they never even recognize us. We've been that community that has been for a very, very, very long time. So I'm not saying I agree with everything everybody talks about. I had big trouble with family members, even a brother that just left here not too long ago, who did not get the treatment that he needed. And if my mom wasn't that voice for him, he wouldn't have gotten the space that he needed to be, the medication he needed to be, and the professional to represent him in today's community. But we have to be open. We have to open our ears, we have to open our hearts, and to receive whatever information that we know we can impact our community. I understand looking like people like that, but obviously no disrespect whatsoever. I understand it's harder to digest the information, but we have to understand the work that they're doing to even be in this space right now. For them to be here, somebody pushed them to be here. They didn't just get here by paying a fee. So we have to take that information, we have to grow with that information, we have to use that information to empower ourselves. Even if they said they were a code and one of the code already that's not our, we need to figure out how we're going to change that. How are we going to move that? We are going to represent our community in a different way. So I understand and I empathize with everyone here. But we have to figure out how we can be in their position to where we don't have to have these discussions. We can figure out how we can move our community.
So I know, I'm saying, this, I want to respond to that, because I respect your saying what you would like to do. But realistically, we are past and beyond that. We have to put trust in them and trust in them and trust in them. Our organs, our children are born missing with our organs. We are not trusting anyone. We have doctors within our home, own people that can. We have Black doctors. We have the Dr. Sadie that was killed. We have a lot of therapists. We have a lot of doctors out there. They won't give them the degrees. We have house doctors that will come and check up on me because they know I won't go to the doctor. They don't trust me. I'm giving my trust over and over to your attention so that we can get in those doors and we can work. I've done it too many times. I don't even want my grandchild to go. If it's necessary and if I must die, I die. At this point, I don't trust.
Which I understand. But how do we get you in that space?
I speak on this, I'm gonna speak on this. I'm gonna speak on this. I can't speak on this. I come from two worlds. One of them is I was raised in that world, but I also was raised in this world. I have two of my degrees in Western medicine and being a licensed practitioner in Indigenous medicine. So we as people can't be stopped, we can't take. I'm in both worlds. That's what I developed. First of all, our youth in both worlds coming up, and our people, they have to be somebody like me. I represent us. So let me finish. Because in both worlds, I get shunned. Let me help. In both worlds, I get shunned. There's one thing we don't talk about. We don't talk about even with our leaders. I play most fields. I sat behind and I watched. But to empower my people on both sides and to take all the learning that I got from my purpose and my people, as well as my other side of the class, I have two sides to one. There has to be a voice that represents both sides because we need that. Just like our native, our roots, and there's a lesson that nobody should know. It should be on the front street. But also we need that western side also because it views both of us. How are we how our people and we listen. As a sacred, we have to listen to both sides. When we create those bridges way back with our chief and I Vernon, my great uncle, being a master chief, these are lessons I take from him. And I've heard both sides forever. But my background is military side at the front line. And I'm there with our people because to get their papers and do that, they have to do military. So in that, I hear what you're saying, sister, for being at home now, I hear that what you're saying. So we're playing both of us so we can do, but I can be saying we have to learn everything. We can't shut out certain things because in retrospect, yes, we have pain. I have pain. I have pain on both sides of the sentence. So it's not just one or the other. But we have to use that together and build it. So it's not our past always been true. I'm true. But we need to come from where we come now to build these churches. Both of you are listening. I'm saying both sides. But I grew up on the land. I grew up here. I'm just saying, but I took both to empower my community. You know what I'm saying?
And Mashpee, my grandchildren.
Yeah, straight bloodline.
June just passed away, medicine of the tribe. Is my grandchildren's great grandmother. That medicine I trust. Okay? So when I speak about the trauma that I have gone through, I don't use my trauma or the trauma of anybody to say no to them. I use them taking our organs. I use us being scientific rats for them.
But I confuse this stuff. You're not the whole thing is fusing this together. How we do better on both worlds.
You know what? There was that trust fact. I believe our chief Stitch, your chief Phillips, you know, and our chief Canonicus. We trust them too. Okay? Our language is one, right? So we trust. Our language is one, right? We trust. We trust our children is one, right? We trust. How much more do they have to take? So you can go trust them because it's a move for you to trust. That's the field that you let me finish.
Education of our new generation. You know, like I'm a new generation in both worlds.
That is
hatred. We're supposed to stop with
hatred. That's not hatred. I do not want to.
I'm saying from both worlds. I'm talking. See, you're talking about one perspective. I'm talking about a child growing up in both worlds, and we're bridging that together to come out with something that can make us grow in the future. We get, believe me, I get the pains is our get.
It's not.
I don't think that you're listening to what I'm
being
saying.
Careful.
We being cautious. We have to be.
They take
but that's not what she's speaking on. She's speaking on mental health, just like my cousin over here.
Your health is
we have to take bold.
That's what we have left.
But to empower the youth coming out, the youth population, I'm saying bold.
What do we have left? We don't have land. We don't have
We have a new generation.
What do we have left?
You're reading, we have us. Why you not talking to you?
And men don't usually do this in my tribe. They don't do that.
If you excuse me, please.
Just, I don't know what tribe you're from, but we don't do that. He's not going to speak to me as an elder.
In all respect, it's very long. Folks have to be real. We're happy to continue the conversation, but just so you know, I don't know what the next week is.
No, I just want to know when you're talking between each other, and then we don't get it.
Yeah, but traditional, some people are not traditional, I can't hear. That's why I'm saying with new things. We need to realize that even when people here, they're not from our church. I am from both worlds, but some of them are not. And they're learning because they're trying to help the community. They're filling in where other people are not filling in.
And they're also taking the education to learn, to bring back, to help people like us. So we have to take that, they're also learning, and they're not from speaking to the traditional people.
This system doesn't work. Thank you. The system doesn't work. We need Indigenous people to create this. Bring us back to your whoever. Totally. That's what you need. Thank you. You hear me. Here. This needs to be rewritten, and the Indigenous person needs to run this. You cannot do anything without the voices of the Indigenous people if you're trying to serve Indigenous people. That's total space. And all the we can't spend so much of that. We need to spread or we need to like you, we're trying to claim the answer, we're trying to think about how we put ourselves in the food to have conversations like at this table. We have to, not that we don't cherish our circle, but we have to be able to be willing to expand and to be included and to grow with the information that we're learning. That's a thing.
So, let me give you an example of Brown University.
But they're not talking about
Brown University hired Elizabeth Hoover.
she don't know that history, that's what I'm trying to say. She's
I'm sharing information.
She listens.
I'm sharing information. She's smart. She knows what I'm saying. They hired a woman named Elizabeth Hoover. When I was young, Elizabeth Hoover told me that I was too proud to be in. Elizabeth was white. Years later, Brown University just got sued. You know why? Because they found out that Elizabeth's not an Indian. Yet she ran Brown University's Indian Studies department. So when we asked them to replace the appropriate people, we typically put somebody in the position, not Indian. Indian passing because they live here. They got some cheap lives or something like that. But they're not Indian. They find out that they're white the whole time. She's really close white. So what I'm saying is, we have to put ourselves in those spaces. But we often, when it's the real Indians who actually come forward in academia, you get flat away. And it's not just Brown. Harvard does it, Yale does it, a lot of the Ivy Leagues are doing it. It's their own strategic mechanism. Now, we have proof. Like, have we listened in on a phone call where they said, we're going to do this to them? No, we don't. However, when somebody completely have it, well, maybe you do have it. I haven't heard any phone calls. Yeah, I know you have that. I just haven't heard any phone calls. You understand? I'm not privy to any action. I'm saying. What I am saying is that it has become an oppressive behavioral pattern of universities doing that to tribal leadership.
Which, no, and I appreciate that information.
is what can we do? We get that, and I think that's what
I
people
think
want.
that's what we're here for. What we do is we want to collaborate with you all, and we want to be able to
But that's
work amongst Brown University and actually be.
But that's what they were expressing, and that's where I think that's where people didn't hear what I said because we're so in our heads. What I was saying was take the knowledge that they're doing, we bring it back, and we that's what we're here. That's what we have. So that's what I was saying. It wasn't taken away. We already know this is not my first. We already know that. But for the new people that are in the room that don't. I was talking to the people in the room. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's what I was talking about. That we have to bridge that generation that's in both worlds. That's what I was trying to explain to her. That we have to take the knowledge that's there, and we have to go back to the drawing board like we did the codes, and we have to revamp it because you guys probably respect more of us doing a lecture coming from our world. But we're not there yet. We're getting there, but they still have to give the information. That's all I was trying to say.
Thank you. And how do things change at all? Unless we have some of the risks that come up here. And that's why we have this conversation right now. It should be covered up this on the screen. And you know what? I have to say, I'm totally I said, he's honest. You know? And he said, bring me information.
You said to who again? Yeah, you said to who that didn't feel comfortable? Who's?
I don't know.
You're organized. So before you actually present to me, you already knew that. So when I expressed my position, that's what I was saying.
totally understood.
And I knew you understood that. And what I was feeding off of what Dr. Fisher was saying is the education, even though it's how what he said, what I got out of what he was saying was that the presenter, at the time I didn't hear you say that, somebody else, you told somebody else.
It's kind of about it's an academic conversation.
Exactly.
What I'm getting is what I'm getting.
So, but here's the thing, if we talk about this first, they're here to present, some of this, so they get a percent, and whoever was part of the So that's what I'm saying, take the piece of information, we're gonna run with that, but more, when we have conferences like that, then people need to put into thought process of how those conversations are gonna be conveyed, so therefore, those people, like us, need to be doing the presentation, but those people are not here, so we have to give due respect for who's giving the.
Now, we can go back to CIPR, right? We can go back to CIPR. CIPR is aware of many practitioners in the Indigenous community that could have gave this presentation. Now rest my conversation there.
Okay, but now that's just going to get some of our people in here. That's what we're learning now. We next year we have people in here representing the same company within the same business. Because right now, stop this presentation just because of the color of these people's skin, and it's like let's understand.
I don't agree. I don't stop. I feel like it stopped the presentation. I feel like I voiced what I needed to say because of the piece that you were on when you were talking about the classes. At that time, the conversation began. We were talking about classes and what you offer, and Dr. Fisher said, "Who's going to be presenting that teaching?" That's how the whole conversation started, because he said, "Who was going to be presenting the teacher when you both gave the presentation about class offer?"
But there's nobody like us.
And that's how the conversation started. And when I presented my own personal piece, what triggered me was when he said, "Because do you have people in place that are going to be able to do this in this spectrum and that spectrum?" Yes. Exactly. What triggered me as an individual was because I was in the position as
So you guys.
See, this is where the thing is. Let me say,
so it wasn't that I wasn't making my own stance. I wasn't making, when I was saying anything about being a minority and race, I wasn't speaking that you two didn't need to be presented because you were white. I was speaking on piggybacking off of what Dr. Fisher said. So why isn't there? That's
And I hope we bring that message.
yeah.
I just want to say this really quick. I went to a school, PhD from a non-accredited EOB school. My school is called the Charter School of Choice for the Department of Indian Education. My tribal government, we deemed the university necessary to mirror our education. We accredited our own institution, but I was able to get my PhD so I can work in spaces just like you, being like where I come, taxes, pregnancies, that gave me more. Now, it is difficult. When you say to me that they don't know, that's difficult for me to comprehend. You know why? Because that's Brown University, that's top Ivy League school in the country. So for us to give a pass, they don't know what they don't know, but they produced over 10,000 white papers on mental health and medical, physiology, precision oncology. I don't believe that psychology. I don't believe that they don't know what they know. Now, there's something that I study called global ignorance. That's a subject that should be studied at all universities. When you're willfully ignorant to what you know because it's a social norm now, that all is in your court, not mine. You said it. And I'm not saying that to you personally. I'm not saying that to you personally. I understand what you're saying, and I understand what she's saying. I understood where she was coming from, I understood where she was coming from, and everybody else in the room. I understood all of that with no problem. And I think that everybody is correct in right. Correct in their own right. That's what I think. Everybody is correct in their right. And this is a sensitive topic. And so I wouldn't expect anything less than what we experienced today. And this was a social experiment.
Yes.
And then we do a white paper. And who's gonna write it? And I took a risk and I didn't know. And you guys feel it. And it wasn't a risk for me. If I can't do this, I expect it.
I know. And then it's walking stage. It was easy for them to get my opinions. Okay, you guys are still here, you guys are still giving information. So I appreciate you really hearing all of our opinions and our stories and our testimonies and what we have to say. And, taking it, receiving it, and taking the information that you bring. I mean, I really it's healthy discussion. I'm like, it's for me. But I can't help people know what you're saying. You can't.
Sometimes we have discussions like this.
Yeah.
At the couple of 35,000 from you, and we say 35,000 from you. We're all right. That's right. In terms of what they express. But we have to keep talking.
That's right.
And we have to keep strategizing individually and collectively. Because the white world out there isn't giving us the priority. I'm a business, in addition to being chairman of East Providence, I'm a businessman in Providence, Rhode Island. And I know the governor, and I know the governor just wasn't enough.
All right, people.
I know needs that we have, particularly in the team. And the reason why they're you are in the field and counsel and look like us. They put that money behind the people in our country that would be willing to come here. But they have to be paid for that. So instead of spending money on other ridiculous things, because they can. And so we have to keep those ones. And to the extent that it turns out to be
That's right.
They say you could walk like you know.
Just being an older black man, remembering what trauma and stuff, the anger, as the anger became I was treated because I was a black man. So I just want to say, so I recognize you individually. I definitely get But YouTube and the movie is allies. I just want to say that. The pain and the strength of the story. That's all I understand. Like I recognize YouTube and individuals allies, and I heard that pain and the strength of the story.
Oh, that's appreciate it. Come on, man.
Hesitated to speak. Please, just wanted to be transparent in terms of, holding multiple identities and being in this space someone that felt that everyone shared about. And two, very emotional in terms of thinking about the experience of being on the inside of an institution and working really hard to make noise and shine light on what so many of you all share. And so, I was thinking, would this have gone differently if I was leading the workshop? And I think in some ways I want to say yes, but I also want to say no, because I also have to be very humble and acknowledge that I'm part of the institution, right? And so I have to sort of carry that blood on me in terms of waking up every day and putting on my coat and doing the job that very much just fails to acknowledge the oppression and erasure, right, of peoples. And so I wanted to say thank you for all that was shared. The attempt to give people a choice in terms of just knowing what is out there. And I don't think it's about Brent. I don't think it's about the two of you. Like, it's the institution of medicine, right? It's a Eurocentric approach. Right? It's all being compared against white. And so it's going to take maybe infinite numbers of visions of the DSM. We'll never get it. So I think it's just trying to make sense of not letting perfection be the enemy of some good. So I think that there's a little bit of good here, and hopefully, the seeds that were planted can grow.
I think they're a bit richer for the experience. And your possibly experience that no other has had. So I think that will contribute what you can to us, what we can offer was to you. So next door you enter, how you enter, and what you bring to it, it's going to change.
And I'm gonna invoice you.
There's not to answer, but and thinking back on what she just said, that you to learn, and that this was an experience that you have gotten. I've had other community health, mental health seminars that I've sat in, and it's not something that you two are brave enough to appear and stay here, because you could have said, we're going to end this session. Yeah. You have the ability to do, you're in a position to be able to do that. And you didn't. You didn't. You've been without your own position. And I appreciate that. Because I've sat in other seminars where this went ahead. But you gave us the ability to speak, and you didn't just give us the ability to speak, you heard. And I feel that I so very low this week because I, for the first time in this I feel like I had a voice to be able to say. And I'm here with my daughter, with my niece, vulnerable. And it's amazing my personal life. The person to support my adults. I didn't feel
It's supposed to be here. It's also who we are. I wouldn't even be here today. For this. So I'm so grateful, and I feel so empowered that pass. You and my path. I don't want to talk about her second person. She said to me, I'm so grateful that you're in my path. And I feel like I'm a full circle to be amongst this circle. That is just about 20. The whole room with us. What didn't happen? You guys stand up, please stand up. Wait a minute. Oh, wait, you're not. About Bradley. Guys, everyone stop. So we want to participate in Simon Saturday. Honestly, in my this feeling of Indigenous children, I'm pissed. I'm pissed. Come on, but today you got to be sorry or working.
End it in a way that it represents that we each have something. Somebody's on us.
All right, so
I would say
yeah.
that it wasn't
Put your hand in your head.
if you strong enough shoulders
This vibration
here, you needed to hear this. You could have done other people who would have been it. Sure. And then and the other so that we can continue minority leaders.
So much. Over here.
This is like my behavioral health, mental health. Okay. Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you.